Alright, in 3, 2, 1.
One of the most famous university press, the Cambridge University Press, have once published that capitalism is an economy system based on private ownership and property and business. And today, I am here on the behalf of 50 million capitalists, the Koreans, to talk about why the government's policy is against the capitalism. Today, I am representing the leader of the opposition. Today, the House believes and the House disagrees with the fact that university education should be free. I am very thankful that today I'm given this stance, given this time, to stand and speak for the oppositional side. And today I'm also more than merely happy that today two houses are gathered in order to find a better way that our society, our country could develop. I am the leader of the opposition who will be discussing about how their policy is against capitalism, which is the base of our country. And I'd also like to introduce about the quality of university being down. And right over there, at the second state of the line, will be our Deputy Prime Minister, who will be Deputy Leader of the opposition, who will be continuing with quality becoming down, and also how university is not free inside and out. Next to him will be our member of the opposition discussing about how the university policy is not actually free to our citizens. And the end of the line will be our oppositional whip discussing and putting all our arguments together and thankfully closing this debate. Before anything, I'd like to mention that the government have given us such a biased definition that will benefit their side definitely. Therefore, today the opposition would like to challenge the government's definition. First, today is such a globalized country. We cannot make an argument only into one country. Therefore, we would like to make this debate, this range of debate, as the whole world for this whole planet. Also, the government has given this proposition and this debate's definition and they gave university cost would be only for the tuition fee in university. However, the oppositional sides believe cafeterias, books, and ETCs are all the forms that creates university and comes together. Therefore, in the definition with the government, the policy would not be totally free, but only partly free. Therefore, we would like to make university cost as every single cost that is spent by and in university. Now, the opposition's leader of, the government's prime minister have stated that there will be too much money spent by the parents. Therefore, we have to provide money for every single family. However, there is one thing that we're misunderstanding. This policy is not totally free inside and out. There is much more to be paid in the future with tax. With tax paid by the parents and tax to be paid after the graduation. And there is many other issues except for the universities that create the payment for a child's lifelong tuition. Therefore, we believe the government prime minister arguments should be recited and the oppositional side will not accept it. Yes, please.
But if we are paying through taxes, we're not paying that whole college tuition as an individual. We're providing the money, so we're saying that the burden will lower.
That wouldn't be right for people who do not get the advantage to pay for this policy. And I believe it will be further introduced by the member of the opposition, and please allow me to continue, hopefully without any further interruptions. And today, we live in a capitalist country. We earn for ourselves. The burden is on us. We have to leave all the money we need. Therefore, the government, just like how government does not pay for the street livers, just like the government does not pay for street livers for their foods and houses, the government is not supposed to be paying for the universities. Capitalism is the main basis of today's country and today's society, and that is our rule. And today, the opposition believes that the government's policy might be a hammer that's breaking the bedrock of the society. Therefore, would like to maintain our society in a rightful and strong way. And that is why today the opposition is going against today's proposition. And also, if this policy is approved, the quality of education will go down. And if it goes down, what's the meaning of university education? Why is why is the government so out of sudden trying to provide money for university? And how they're starting up their fundings decrease the quality of university? As it will further discussed by the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Why didn't he do like more
Okay, that's time up.
Hey people! Una!
In 3, 2, 1.
Dear Mr. Speaker and Madam Speaker and fellow debaters, I'm the Deputy Prime Minister strongly believes that university education should be free. Before I move on to a reason, I want to rebut some opposition arguments. First of all, they talk about the opposition challenge our definition by giving that we cannot just have Korea as the country we are talking about. However, are we able to talk about the global education really fully? No way. And also, they talk about capitalism. But capitalism is in our country. There's still some countries who are in communism, like Cuba or like many small countries who are still having communism too. Their definition challenges their reason too. Therefore, we don't have reason to change the definition. And also, moving on, I want to clearly define the free one more time. We are getting the free, and as the term free, we are elevating the burden, and this will firmly explained by me later on. And they clearly understand the fact that we are going to do this by taxes because they will already mention on their reason. And okay. We are going to talk about the free as elevating, so dividing the burden that people will have. Thirdly, they talked about that our Prime Minister PY to the literal opposition saying that when we have a free education, when we just having free, when we don't have a free education, people don't have to pay taxes, additional taxes for it. However, it is true that if they're not doing the free education, there's majority of people will still have the burden. And moving on to our reason, I want to present. Dear Mr. Speaker and fellow debaters, again, I'm the Deputy Prime Minister, and I'm here to argue that university education should be free. First of all, I will expand our second reason. Second, Mr. Speaker, the free university education improves society. How? Let me give. Okay. University education opens a gate for the students to become experts. In other words, people are being human resources. And let me give some research about it. According to the Yonhap News, people who went to university gets a better job, and also they're having comfortable workplace. Plus, there are 10% more than high school graduates, and also 89% of the university graduates has stable employment, while the number was only for 79.6% for the high school graduates. What does this show us? What does it tell us? This clearly shows that companies want highly educated people. And Mr. Speaker and Madam Speaker, just spending 4 years in the university over citizens like you and me, a better workplace, and more importantly, we'll have a higher income. Yeah.
Does university help develop in every single job that exists in Korea?
I'm talking about Korea here, and we have a statistic which shows that they have a higher income and also they have a higher workplace. And also, moving on our third reason. Thirdly, free university education alleviates the burden that on the families have. How? Initially, the money for free university education comes from the taxpayers. As the Prime Minister clearly stated, the free education can be financed through taxes. And the taxes is the money we don't like. However, the reason is that people think oh, I don't like it, and I have to pay more taxes for what? But look at in the long term, and look at in the real number that we have. South Korean tuition fees are up to $7,000 US. Furthermore, according to Yonhap News, 1 out of 5 students may go into debt because of the high university tuition cost. To add on, according to the Seoul University Education, revealed that in 2012 alone, parents spent average 10.1 million won on college tuition for their children. But why this number is really considering? Because those are the people who are heading for their retirement. Right now, the government has to make the diligent students, but also poor, and have a fair opportunity of education through the fair university education. I have my time.
Okay, time to continue.
On 3, 2, 1.
To my honorable judge and my fellow debaters, I'm the deputy leader of opposition. Although the government has tried fruitlessly to whine that university education should be free, this House remains unconvinced. Furthermore, the opposition believes that university education must never be free because of the chaotic effect it will cause inevitably. But before I start my point, I would like to rebut some of the ridiculous points that the government has made. First, they said that the proposition must extend only to Korea because we cannot discuss the globalized world fully. However, we, the opposition, unlike the government, have the mental capacity to consider the global world as well. And they have also pointed out how university improves society. Let me show how that is ridiculous. As a leader of opposition briefing mentioned, if university education becomes free, the quality of education is expected to drop drastically. Let me further elaborate. Since everyone can go to the university without the problem of finance, attendance will undoubtedly increase. However, because of the government can give only limited amounts of funding, less money will be spent on the quality of education, the quality of teaching, the variety of curriculums, but most important of all, the multiple spectrum of opinions. Some might ask, what is the problem with this? In the world today, there are no infinite truths. Instead, there are many different opinions about the same thing. Because of this, students have to be exposed to many opinions and voices before they can make a decision themselves. This process has a positive effect, helping students to think by themselves. However, this process will not be available in universities if universities become free. Since tuition is now eliminated, the only source of funding that the universities will have is from the government. Ultimately, the government will have at least a certain degree of control over the content of the teaching, altering it to a way that suits the government. As the famous quote, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Students will be brainwashed to believe that what the government, I'll answer that later, please wait, enforces them to believe. Universities operate best when they are independent of outside control and agendas. Yet when education is free, students will be entirely in the childhood world state. Do you think this is improving the society? Yes, I'll answer your question now.
How could the free, do you think that the university will allow not qualified students for university?
Could you repeat your question?
Do you think that even though we have a free university education, do you think that university will let unqualified students for that university?
I'm sure that I have elaborated upon that point, right? I advise that the government focuses on the opposition's arguments more. And free educations aren't exactly free either, which will be left. This is a ridiculous POC. I made that point very clearly. I do not think I have to repeat that question. And free education aren't exactly free either, which will be elaborated upon our member of government. They said that free education will promote equality, sameness. Okay, maybe it could be equal, but the problem is, even if when we're equal, the quality is bad. We're all bad, all equal. Is that what you want? Is that the true equality? For the sake of true scholarship, for the ultimate good of students, for a better citizen of our country, we should not allow universities to become free. free education is not still free of biases. In fact, they are more successful in that area aspect. My fellow colleagues, and with all due respect, Mr. and Madam Speaker, if you value true education, please do not condone university education to become free. Mr. and Madam Speaker, I have my time.
I need to remind the audience, you think you're quiet, but your whispers are like bees in my ear. So please, whatever you have to say, just wait.
Okay, let's proceed. If we can have quiet.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Mr. Speaker and fellow debaters, I'm the member of the government, and I'm here to prove that university education should be free. Before I expand upon our reason, I would like to point out the flaws made by the opposition side. First of all, the opposition has mentioned in their definition that tuition, that free education does not only mean tuition, but cafeteria and etc. that is included in university education. I'm not saying anything to their definition, but because they're saying that cafeteria and dormitory fees are included in the university education, then the burdens for the parents of the students will increase, which will make the burdens like I said, the burdens will increase, and by this making the education free would be a better idea. By paying tax, it would be dividing those burdens. And also the second speaker mentioned about if university education becomes free, that the university's quality would decrease. However, just because the tuition fees for the university is decreasing doesn't mean that the students' quality would be decreasing. Think about the universities in Korea, Seoul, Korea, and Yonsei, the Sky universities. Do you think just because the tuition becomes free that the students suddenly, students who are not qualified at university will suddenly get into it? No, I don't think so. And now I'll expand on our reason. Mr. and Madam Speaker, everyone deserves a fair opportunity. The fact is, university education has become, in a way, a requirement in later life. Did you know many companies in Korea don't even consider people's resumes unless people's education is listed? According to the national inspection data, the 4 major companies in Korea, Samsung, LG, SK, and Hyundai, commonly recruit people that graduate from SKY universities 10 times as much as they recruit people from other universities. In some instances, just the degree itself is seen as a measure of an individual's intellectual and professional quality. Yes?
These the 4 companies mentioned, and is the job not made by their, excuse me, is their job provided by those companies, the only job?
Of course, they're not the only jobs in Korea, but 4 major companies. And do you know how much companies there are in Korea? Not only Samsung, but Samsung Electronics, Insurance, and there's tons of jobs. And this could be a vain example, and I'll continue with my debate. And also, what am I driving at, Mr. and Madam Speaker? The sad reality that confronts us is that countless people every day are deprived of any opportunities to receive university education. Is this really fair when we, in truth, have the power to actually change this? That is why, Mr. and Madam Speaker, all students must be granted an opportunity to attend universities. So how do you accomplish this? Making university education would be a great start. Right now, at this very moment, the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. According to the Joseonilbo, the top 1% of wage earners in Korea earn 16.6% of national income. Think about it, Mr. and Madam Speaker. The population in Korea is 50 million, and only 1% of this population earning this much amount of money. If opportunities are not provided for poor students, it's likely for the cycle of poverty to continue. Think about it. Even if a person is born into a poor family, if they work hard, they might be able to gain acceptance into a university, despite their harsh circumstances. However, what good is it if they're unable to pay their university tuition? All that work just to realize that they never really had a chance. Surprisingly, according to CNN, in 2011, the average Korean university pays up to $7,000 per semester, whereas the average annual income of Korean household is only about $20,000. The tuition takes up a substantial portion of the household income. Mr. and Madam Speaker, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it is impossible for the diligent students to get into good schools. There's certainly options out there. Student loans is one option, but it won't be the same as attending a university worry-free of financial burden. According to the Ministry of Education, the South Korea student loans are actually below average among the OECD countries. However, South Korea, the amount of debt owed by students was still substantial. To add on, Yonhap News informed the public that 1 in every college students graduate with an exorbitant amount of debts following graduation. The data show that college students need at least 1 million won a month to average to get by, including paid tuition, but their monthly income from part-time jobs merely stop at an average of 470,000 won. Mr. Speaker and Mr. and Madam Speaker, based on the facts that I've just stated, there's no doubt that university education is a necessity. Everyone must be provided an opportunity, and to do this, we must make the university tuition free. This will give the economically disadvantaged students a chance to take a step out of poverty. Education must be available for the rich and poor. Mr. and Madam Speaker, I yield my time.
난막 저거 나는 근데 그거 좀 테이프
When we come to GDP, we also calculate those or not sustainable or
아니요.
Okay, let's continue.
언니 엄마한테 안 혼낸 거
So my honorable judge and argumentative counterparts, allow me a moment to redirect our attention to the primary point of contention. Education should not be provided free as it is entirely infeasible. I am the member of opposition, and before proving my point, I would like to rebut the government's broken arguments. Well, before doing that, I would first like our leader of opposition and deputy leader of opposition mention the definition should be challenged as tuition providing all, and the country should be global. And then on the government side, said that the top 1% earned the money and it is unfair for them, but they earned it by their effort, and it should have a balance on them. Like for example, on Cheongdam, you guys are on master classes, but if you're doing something like equalized education, then most of you guys here should go to par. So when you guys are especially in like masters, would you like getting educations from the par, like when they're proposing the free educations? And also there will be people who have abilities will be sure to get the scholarship. And I will now begin with my argument. Like our leader of opposition mentioned, ironically, free education is not free. It needs a large No, I won't get it, you're wasting my time. It needs a large output of money to maintain the freeness of the education. But I really want to ask the government side, who will pay for the money for the equalized university? Private donors? No, that was when all the universities were different. Okay, now back to reality. Naturally, it will be the government's budget and higher taxes that will handle the backbreaking work. But as you know, the government's budget is limited. And would your parents pay excessive amounts of taxes just to maintain the qualities of their and other son and daughters' educations? Like for example, according to a study, if Australia wants their country with a free university education, yes.
You're not talking, the government side, the government side clearly stated that we are only talking about Korea, and why are you giving the information from the Australia?
Well, of course, like our leader of opposition and deputy leader of opposition said that your definition was clearly biased, so I chose to propose this argument. Well, hopefully without any interruptions, if Australia wants their country with a free university education, it will cost them $24 billion per year. Well, let me repeat that. $24 billion per year. Wait a minute, did I mention that the total gross income that Australia has is about $360 billion? And plus, Korea's already staggering for just free lunch for kids. Well, we all know that the price was fairly good, relieving financial burdens, until we knew our government's budget. The Assistant Minister for Planning and Coordination, Kim Dong-woo, said that if this situation persists, the government would practically lose $600 million. Yes.
For the free, what do you think about the fact that for the freelance, the government didn't increase the tax rate?
I want you to formulate your ideas more and ask me, and hopefully without any further interruptions. Okay, now how are you going to free the education, especially in Korea, when the government is running out of budget for just freeing lunch for kids? And second, it will cause a rapidly decreased respect and prestige for our teachers. We, the opposition, are well aware of how Korean company teachers achieve high and fantastic educations. But if the university education becomes free, the qualities will drop, and the reputations that our teachers and professors have gotten will decrease, and it will be harder for us to get prestige education that our teachers have gotten. No, stop wasting my time. Seriously, who wants to be a professor when they're treated just same as a government employee like a post officer? It'll be harder for us to get the prestige educations that our teachers have gotten. And third, the budget used there could be used to in other places that are eagerly required. From research, one could see that the external debt the U.S. has is about 16 trillion. They have this excessive amount of debt, but is it right to make more debt? This influence will bomb straight into citizens' pocket. They have to cut their spending, higher their taxes? No. And lastly, the worst part is that there will be some people who won't be benefited in the system. Allow me to explain it clearly. Lastly, there will be some people who won't be benefited in this poor system. For example, 50 to 60-year-old citizens won't be able to enjoy the advantages. They have to pay this excessive amount of taxes and their child's already graduated and fully became an adult. In that situation, what do those citizens get? Well, yes, it will help the country's education level. But so what? What is it benefiting them? Well, maybe you're thinking that raising country's education level leads to higher GDP, which allows more furthermore investment on your country. But you see, those steps don't happen as fast as you may think. Considering the fact that the free and the university education thing was free, it will take them at least a few decades to fulfill that. Mr. and Madam Speaker, I yield my time.
준비하는 거 같아. 시간이 없다고
All right, we're gonna get started. This is the whip. This is the conclusion of the debate. So get excited.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Mr. Speaker, where do you think college students get their tuition fee from these days? According to a statistic, 90% of students are getting a financial aid from their parents, and 10% have to give up on their education just to earn money to go to college. And Mr. Speaker, so many are suffering from the burden of tuition fee from your parents to you. They are all suffering from the burden of tuition fee. Mr. Speaker and fellow debaters, we have been listening to the opposition side. However, we cannot agree with one single word they have mentioned to us. I'm here today to prove to you guys that our team has rightfully won this debate. To begin, I will go over our reasons, and next I will go over the flaws they make, and third I will conclude our debate.
To begin, our first reason was how it can reduce an aging society. In 1970, the average working age was 34.7. However, today it's 44.0. There's a big jump in just 43 years. And the reason for this is for the aging society is because parents, even though they get married, they don't have kids because of the educational burden. Moreover, it can improve our society. It's, as mentioned before, through free tuition fees, we're getting the money from taxes, and at first it seems like a bad thing because the taxes we pay are used up on for individual purposes. However, if you look at the long term, it's much more effective. Third, it alleviates the financial burdens on the families. Per term, it's $7,000 per term. For the university fees are $7,000 per term, which adds up to $14,000 per year. And our final reason was the issue of fairness. All citizens have the right to education. We should be giving equality to the rich and the poor. We shouldn't let the rich kids go to college while the poor kids can't because of poverty. And to go on with their flaws, to begin, they said that they admitted to the long-term effect of taxes. They have mentioned about this earlier, and they admitted to what we have said. And also, they mentioned about how equalizing and giving an example of master's part and masters. If we equalize the Cheongdam thing, then we might be studying part education. However, by equalizing, we don't mean that we're equalizing the degree of education. However, we mean that we're equalizing the poverty from rich and the poor. And by free, we don't mean that everyone can go to Seoul University. It's just free, but Seoul University still picks their students. It's not that just because universities are free, everyone can go to universities. And they also said how the government brainwashes to free education. However, isn't brainwash a little extreme? They don't even have statistics to prove that it is a brainwash. Also, finally, they mentioned about how they still have a burden through taxes. However, as mentioned earlier, even though there's a burden in taxes, we're dividing up the tax money of college tuition fees, so the burden actually lowers. And first, the flaws they made in their arguments, they said that they will cover the whole world and said that we don't have the mental capacity to cover the whole world. However, this side didn't cover the whole world either. They only covered Australia and a couple more countries, but they didn't talk about cover the whole world either. Also, they rejected a point of clarification. The way I see it is that they weren't able to clarify the sentence again, so that's why they weren't able to clarify. You're not actually allowed to reject the POC. And also, during our second speaker, she had a POI. However, they said that because her POI isn't clarifiable, they cannot answer it. But as I see it, it's just an excuse for them not to answer our POI because our POI was so strong, they can't rebut against it. And ladies and gentlemen, university education should be free. There are so many benefits we can earn through free university education. It helps the society as a whole, not only the individuals, but as a society as a whole. Mr. and Madam Speaker, I yield my time.
I will every time. 연예인들이 가방안에 뭐가 딱 많이 들어가지고 많이 들어가지고 많이 들어가지고 너 뭐라 그래요, 정말한테? 아니, 원래
Big all the country. Big
아니야. 그렇게 믿어.
See how terrifying right
Okay, are we ready?
Mr. Speaker, I am the last speaker of this debate here to conclude the stance of the opposition. And while us, the opposition, has completely broken down the government's arguments, the government has completely failed and has been very disappointing in their performances. Now, before I explain how so, I'd first like to summarize our arguments. Firstly, the social system of the modern era is capitalism. And according to the definition of capitalism, if we keep on giving crucial disadvantages to the rich and keep on pushing up the poor, then the whole social system will collapse. Also, let's look at the shoes of the affluent people. These people earn their money with hard work. However, if you're asking them to give away their money for something that they have no relevant to, they're not relevant to. And our second point was about the degradation of quality of education it causes. When a limited amount of resources are distributed to a larger amount of students, then the quality of education is no doubt to be lowered. Because as the government said, the Seoul University, the top universities such as Seoul University, the quality will go down. But that's the case of the higher universities. What about the middle class and the lower class, where most students can apply to? Then that story will be different because the quality will drastically drop. We have used expert opinions to prove this. And let's just look at the opinions of the wealthy, hardworking people to see how bad this is. They give up their money, their hard-earned money, and what do they get? They get rather worse education for their children, and that's how bad it is. The last argument we had to give was that it is highly impractical and it's not actually free, ironically, because there are 4,495 universities in the US. And the government kept on giving the amount of the tuition fees each student has to pay. Well, that amount times 4,495 is the cost the government has to pay to cover free education. However, the government does not have this money, because the entire world is living on debt and they don't have the financial capacity to cover these places. Now, to rebut the opposition's argument, firstly, they talked about the educational burden and the financial cost it causes and the negative effects it leads to, such as the parent tendency not to blame more kids. However, the university cost does not cover the entire educational burden, and also, as we said before, free university education is not completely free, as you have to pay heavier taxes. Even the most irrelevant people have to pay taxes for it. And our second argument was that their second argument was that there are human resources and we can use them more properly if we implement free university education. However, this cannot be more untrue, because if these people have the capacity to become human resources, then they no doubt can get the scholarships. And if they get the scholarship, they can go to university. However, this proposition does not only cover these hardworking, diligent students, it covers the entire student body, which I cannot help but admit that not every student is diligent. And also, it's very impractical. And the third argument they gave was the positive effects it might lead to in society. However, as our member of opposition has clearly stated, these things do not happen as fast as you think. because it takes decades, and we have problems that we have to solve right now, such as poverty and the Obamacare system. There are more places that the money can be used more wisely. And the last argument was about equalizing the opportunities of the rich and the poor. However, this would be good. However, it's too impractical to cover this problem. And also, if the poor, even if the students are poor, if they are diligent and their will is enough, then they can achieve their dreams to enter the university. Now, to explain why we have completely won this debate. They told us that we didn't answer their POIs because we're too stupid to. However, I would like to object to this. We did not answer their POIs because their question was like, and they were wasting our time in a ridiculous manner. And also, they were using POIs and POCs abusively. Also, we talked about the definition because the limiting the competition, the proposition to Korea, the range would be too narrow. However, they said that we did not cover the entire world too. There are about 300 countries in the world. Then do we have to give the examples of every and each one of these countries in order to cover the whole world? And this is why we believe that we have won this debate. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that you will make a fair decision and more likely the right one. Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
예, 어머니가 살았어요.